Comprised of Ojibwe, Lakota, Menominee, Potawatomi, and Apache dancers, these amazing talents have traveled from Michigan, Wisconsin, and Illinois to be here with us today. They'll be presenting many different dance styles, including fancy, jingle, and grass, along with live music and traditional storytelling. Woodland Sky Native American Dance Company was founded in 2013 by Michelle Reed and Shane Mitchell, both of whom will be performing here with us today, sharing their one-of-a-kind talents in this theatrical performance. Lastly, we'd like to request that there is no flash photography during this performance. Restroom facilities, if needed, are off to the far side of the theater here. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming to the Crazy Horse stage, Woodland Sky.
Growing up, I had the awesome pleasure of getting to travel this great Mother Earth that we live upon. It's taken me all over the First Nations of North America, where I got to meet many different nations that shared their stories with me. They say, listen to your elders. Listen to the story, because when our elders leave us, that story goes away. So I listen, and I share the stories of where I've been. My travels took me to the plains of the Omaha people. There, the grass grew so tall, and as the wind would blow it, the grass itself told a story. And back then, in order to have our lodges or places for gathering, the people would send the young ones into these fields of tall grass, these young warriors, and tell them, use your feet to stomp this grass down, repeating on the other side. As they did this in these fields of tall grass, soon this tall grass that was so tall was slowly flattened. And now we can build our lodges. And now we can build our arenas for our gatherings. The elders watched these young men and said, it's almost as if they're telling a story out there with their feet. So he told them, grab a handful of this grass and tie it to your elbow. And as you stomp, they made the grass dance. Tie these grass to your legs. And as you stomped, they made the grass dance. Nowadays, we don't wear grass on our clothing. All the long fringe and the ribbon and the yarn that you see on my regalia represents this grass blowing in the wind. And if you ever go to a gathering, sometimes the MC will tell the people, all grass dancers, come into the arena. Prepare this arena for our other dancers to come in, almost as if to tell them, bless this ground. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Woodland Sky Native American Dance Company. As a young man, I have many memories of my father. He was a great teacher. He shared with me a lot of great stories about his life. My father, a World War II veteran, he made his way over to Guadalcanal, and he told me some really terrible stories of what happened over there. I listened. He said, son, we were on a battleship heading to go face an enemy. Our battleship had these big guns on there, these big cannons. And he said, when you hear that alarm going off, the sirens, it means those cannons are getting ready to be fired. Get below deck. He says, you don't want to be on deck and have those cannons fire. He said, you wouldn't be able to hear for a week. So he said, when the sirens began to blare, he said, that meant get down, get underground, go below deck. And he says, you can hear these big cannons as they moved and locked on to their target. He says, as soon as they were locked on, the whole ship seemed to shudder. They were going to fire these cannons at an enemy that they couldn't even see. Boom! Boom! He said it lit up the sky. And as I listened to him tell that story, I remembered a story that was shared with me. A long time ago, this land was ours. We did not have reservations. There were no boundary lines. I simply would tell you, this is my home. This is where I build my lodges. This is where my people live. One day, we heard a strange noise. It seemed to churn up the earth. We can hear the chains jingling. We looked up into the top of the hills. It was the soldiers. They were pointing their cannons down at us. We've never seen a weapon like this before. There was no way to defend it. And as they pointed these cannons down, the commander ordered, fire! Boom, 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 boom. Never did we back down. We did what our grandfathers told us to do. We did what our fathers told us to do. When they shoot these guns upon us, duck and move out of the way, but never back down from an enemy. So as these warriors dance for you on this stage, they're going to tell you a story of the old ones who said, look, the soldiers are coming, but never back down. So every time these cannons are fired, the dancers, the warriors, ladies and gentlemen, we present to you the duck and dive. I have a lot of great stories about my grandma. You know, I really loved my grandma. I loved going to her house. She never told me no. And I know that you will all maybe disagree with me, but my grandma made the best macaroni and cheese. I miss her. I miss her stories. I miss her laughter. And I remember this time when I was a little boy and I was at my grandma's house. I was playing with my trucks in the backyard, and she was out there with me taking care of her garden. And in her garden, she had the most beautiful flowers you ever seen. She looked at me and she said, "Grandson, come here. Come sit by me." So I went and sat by my grandma. She said, "Look." And as we watched the flowers, she said, "Watch the story unfold." And from out of nowhere, a beautiful butterfly came floating in, dancing from flower to flower. She said, "Look, these are our fancy shawl dancers. And as the dancers are preparing to dance, they hold their shawls closely around them, representing the chrysalis or the cocoon. And as the heartbeat of Mother Earth begins, this drum, as it begins to play their song, they will open up their beautiful shawls and they'll dance. Just like the butterfly. Just like Grandma said. Ladies and gentlemen, we present to you the women's fancy shawl dance. The story of life is a beautiful one. From the time we're brought into this earth until the time we leave, we hear stories about life. This is the story of the life of a deer. From the time it comes upon this earth, it's curious, its mind exploring, looking for new adventures. Growing older, it turns into an old, wise buck who's very smart and seeks and looks, always curious, always moving, noticing everything. Finally, the spirit of this animal is taken so that others may live and provide food for their families. This is a story of the life of this deer. Ladies and gentlemen, we present to you the deer dance.
Ahau, buju in Dunawe Maganiduk. Hello to all my relatives. Bape Wagush, Ninda Jinikaj. Laughing Fox is what I am called. Ninda Migizi Dudame, I am from the Eagle Clan. And Miss Squabi Kong, Nindunjaba. I am from the Red Cliffs. It's my honor to share with you tonight the creation story of the Native American accordion flute. And we in the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Chippewa, we have creation stories for everything. We have creation stories on how Turtle Island was formed, North America. We have creation stories on why the raccoon, the Acebun, wear their masks. We even have a creation story on why the Animush, the dog, smell each other's butts. But tonight, I'm going to share with you this creation story of the bibiguan, the Native American courting flute. And it's an instrument created out of unconditional love. Love for one another, love for our grandparents, love for our siblings, love unconditional. It's one of the oldest instruments out there. The first of the oldest instruments would be the drum beat, because that's the first thing that we hear while we're in our mother's womb. The next would be that rattle, that shaker. It mimics the rain, it mimics the water, the sacredness of that, the thing that we all need to survive. And every culture all over the world has some sort of a flute, and there's many different stories to that. But this is the story that I had learned. Ginwej Gigo, a long time ago in a village, there was a young man, and he really liked this girl in his village. And they were about the courting age. And he would go up to her and he would try to talk to her, and he found that he could not. He was a good hunter, he was a good provider. And so he kind of stood off in the back of the village and he watched his other young men who were more good with their tongues talk to her. And this kind of frustrated him. And he remembered in his stories that there was a love medicine out there. And the love medicine was carried by the ayabe. And the ayabe was a huge albino buck that lived to the west. And he thought to himself that if he could find this ayabe, that he could somehow get this love medicine and he could present it to her, and then she would know how he felt about her. So he packed up a bunch of provisions and he went out into the woods, and he saw a big set of tracks out in the woods. And he thought to himself, this is it. This has got to be the ayabe. So he followed these tracks, and always out of the corner of his eye, he would see a white blur. And he would pull back his bow and arrow just in time to see it gone. And this went on for days and days. He'd see that flash. He'd pull back his bow and arrow. It'd be gone. Finally, exhausted from his journey, he sat down underneath a great cedar tree and he started a fire. And as he sat there listening to the crackle and the pop of the fire, the image of his heart's desire came here. And he was half awake and half asleep, that in-between place of dreams. And that's when he heard the night song. It lulled him to sleep. And the next day when he woke up to a knocking. And when he opened his eyes, he looked up into that tree, and he could see that there was a beneshi on that branch. A bird was on that branch, and it was dancing, and it was making holes. And that bird flew off, and just as it flew off, the wind had picked up, and it went across the branch with all the holes in it, and it made that sound. And he knew that was it. That's what he was searching for. So he got up and he reached up into that tree and he broke that branch off of there. And as he studied it, he tried to make that noise. He tried to blow on it. Nothing. Blow on it this way. Still nothing. He was even going like this to mimic that wind. Still nothing. So again, like he was taught when seeking answers, you pray. And he took some sacred asema, some sacred tobacco, and he said a prayer to the spirit of that bird. And he offered his asema to that fire. And that fire turned his prayers into smoke and brought it up. And as he sat there against the tree waiting for an answer, he went to sleep. And in his dream, the bird came and visited him. And he asked the young man, "What is it that you seek?" And he told the bird his dilemma. He told him about his heart's desire. He talked about the other young men in the village giving her gifts and getting her attention. He talked about his frustrations. He talked about his journey in the woods, how the Ayabe had led him to that spot. After a moment, the spirit bird took pity on him and decided to teach him how to make that noise. He taught him how long to make the flute. He taught him where to put the holes. And he said, when you play this, when you blow into this bibi guan, which is the Ojibwe word for flute, when you blow into the bibi guan, it'll wabi guan out the end. It'll flower. Wabi guan's the Ojibwe word for flower. It'll flower out of the other end of the flute. And the bird also told him, and when you do this, have the image of your heart's desire here, and you feel it here, and you blow into that. So the young man took some time in the woods, and he followed the instructions of the bird, and he created the first bibi guan. And he made his way back to his village. And as he stood up on a hill, and he looked down, and he could see all of his people down there working. Some were dancing wild rice. Some were gathering berries. Some were smoking fish. And he took that bibi guan and he put it up to his mouth and he blew. That sound made its way from the hill, and it went down into the village where everybody was working. And when people heard that sound, they all stopped, and they all took a moment, because no one had ever heard that sound before. And they could see this young man up on the hill making this noise. Finally, that sound made its way to the wigwam, which is the traditional home of the Anishinaabe. Made its way to the wigwam of the young woman. And as soon as she heard it, she knew instantly that that was for her. And she came out of her wigwam and she looked up on that hill and she could see that young man up there. And she recognized him. She knew who he was. And she always wondered why he never talked to her. So she went up and stood next to him. And she closed her eyes. And she was so amazed and overwhelmed that somebody could express so much love without using any words. And as she listened to the sound, she realized that it was intertwining their spirits together.
remember I was at a performance. And when the program had ended, a gentleman who was non-native came up to me and asked a question. He said, "Ronnie, is it true you talk to God with bird feathers?" I didn't know if he was insulting me, making fun of me, or maybe he just did not understand. So I thought very long, how can I tell people about my eagle feathers? We look at the base of any eagle feather and we see the plumage, the down feathers. Notice they're not uniform like the rest of the feather. They're kind of free and go wherever they want to go. These are our babies, our little ones, our children. So free, so thick is the base of the quill. Full of life are our little ones. But as we go through this lifetime, we see that the quill soon comes to an end. And this eagle feather will tell a story of our lives. There are many things we're going to come across that we're not going to like, that are going to hurt us. They're going to make us angry. They're going to make us sad. They're going to make us cry. And this feather is going to tell us about it. We're going to come across racism. We're going to come across alcohol, drugs, addiction, overdose. Domestic violence. Suicide. Death. And as I looked at my broken eagle feather, I realized that this was not just a story. This was my story. This is my life. I've seen racism. I'm judged by the color of my skin and the way that I wear my hair. I'm stereotyped. I know racism. But I became an educator. I became a teacher. So that I can travel and I can talk to people and explain to them, that is not who we are. This is who we are. And the healing begins. I know alcohol. I know addiction. And I know overdose. Was a time as a teacher I tell our children, hey, respect your elders. Listen to what they say. Because when they leave, their story leaves with us. Now I find that this sickness is taking our young people from us as well. And now I have to tell the young ones, watch after each other. Take care of one another. There's a sickness out there that's taking our people from us. I know alcohol. I seen what it did to my friends. I seen what it did to my people. I seen what it did to me. Face your fears, they say. So now I become a counselor so that I can talk to people and give them other things other than these terrible things to do. They call it the red road. Follow it. And the healing continues. Domestic violence. Growing up when I was a child is a lot different than the children growing up today. When my father told me to go get a switch, he didn't mean to click the light switch. He meant go out and get yourself a stick so he can whip me with it. Watching him beat my mother. As a child growing up in my time, I thought this was normal. I thought this happens in everybody's home, so I never worried about it. It wasn't until I got older that I finally realized what my father was doing was not right, and it never happened again. And the healing continued. Suicide. Such a terrible sickness it is. There's no symptoms. I got a phone call from a friend who I haven't heard from in a long time. Man, we talked for about an hour. And when he was saying his goodbye, he was like, thank you, Ronnie, for talking to me. I really needed it. I said, anytime, just call me. I found out the next day he took his own life. I blamed myself for a long time. Maybe if I just kept him on the phone long enough. So now I travel all over the United States, going to suicide prevention conferences, sharing my story, talking with people, spreading the word. Love one another. Respect one another. Be kind to one another. No man should ever be afraid to tell another person that I love you. And the healing continues. And death. We're all familiar with this thing called death. I was very proud once to say I had 5 brothers. Now I only have 1. My mother, bless her heart, is 87 years old. And when I go to visit her, I see my brother's pictures all plastered all over her wall. She cries for her babies. I know that a parent's worst nightmare is that you have to bury your children. This is not what's supposed to happen. I watched my mother do it 3 times. I know death. All I can do is go and hug her and comfort her and be there for her. And the healing continues. And as you see, a once broken feather is back, stronger than ever. Healing. It's the gift of the Creator to all of us. We have the power to heal one another. I wear my eagle feathers proudly upon my head. I wear my face paint all over my face, just as my ancestors did when the first European people came to this new world, they called it. They discovered a race of people who had their own language, who did wear face paint and did wear eagle feathers in their heads. We wore them then, we wear them now. We honor this Magizi by bringing our medicines out of sweetgrass, sage, tobacco, cedar, and when we burn it and we fan ourselves off, we welcome this gift and we cleanse ourselves down. And as that smoke rises, it does indeed take our good thoughts to the Creator up there. So in response to this gentleman who said, "Is it true that you talk to God with bird feathers?" I simply said, "You better believe I do. Only in ways you'll never understand." Ladies and gentlemen, we present to you the Eagle Dance. Traveling all over this Mother Earth, my travels took me to the great north, and I met the nation of the Anishinaabe, the Ojibwe people. They shared wonderful stories with me, how they took their birch bark canoes out on the lakes and used 2 sticks to gather rice, food. I thought, wow, this is such a beautiful story. But they also shared a story of a great sickness that came to the people. A sickness that found many of our relatives walking on to that spirit world. We lost many grandmothers and grandfathers, mothers and fathers, even our children. There was a grandfather who had a granddaughter. Her family was taken from her. All she had left was him. So the grandfather watched over her and took care of her. When she needed water, he gave her water. When she needed food, he gave her food. Every day he did this and found himself becoming tired, but fighting it to keep her. Reaching for his medicine pouch. He made a prayer. Creator, hear me. Don't take my granddaughter from me. She is all that I have. He found himself weak and falling asleep. As he slept, the spirits came down and they entered his body and talked to him and said, "We do indeed hear what you are saying, and we're going to help you." In the morning, when you awake, you will find a gift that we give to you. Take this gift and make her a dress. Put this dress on her. And then take her around your villages and have her dance. And everything will be okay. In the morning when he woke, there were the gifts that were promised. So he gave this to the people, and with the instructions of what to do with this gift. And the Anishinaabe people call it the jingle dress. The cones that are put on this dress, the sound that it makes, represents water. They say when the cones cross each other, it makes a beautiful sound. And when they cross each other, this is where the prayers come from. This is where the healing comes from. They call it a healing dress, a medicine dress. the jingle dress. And in a time where we're in a pandemic and many are fearing things, this is a good time to have these dancers dance for us, heal us. So as these dancers dance, and you might need somebody that knows somebody, or even yourself might need some healing, think about that as these dancers dance for you. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the healing dance, the medicine dress, the jingle dress. As winter is in full effect, we've prepared all year so that our families will be taken care of. This warrior would go out and gather food for his family. He would gather enough firewood to keep his family warm. In this wintertime, nobody wants to be outside in the cold. Everybody wants to be with their families. This is the time we tell stories. We sing, we celebrate. Life is good. And this young warrior, he'll do whatever it takes to defend his family. One morning, there was a light snowfall on the ground. And as the fog drifted over the snow, he looked down and noticed tracks he never recognized these. He looked upon the field overlooking his home, and there, as the fog began to lift, was his enemy coming to take so he prepared himself, reaching in for his medicine bag, pulling out his medicines. He makes two simple prayers. He says, Creator, I ask you to bless my shield so that it may protect me from my enemies. Creator, I ask you, bless my war club so it may find its enemy. Ladies and gentlemen, we present to you the shield dance. my hoop. It's very sacred to me. It's like the teachings that I was taught by my father and my father by his grandfather. It's called the teaching of 7 generations. We pass on to our loved ones knowledge, language, your culture. It's like this hoop. There is no beginning and there is no end. Continuous will always continue. This hoop, this sacred hoop, this medicine wheel divided into 4 colors. We see our medicine wheel and we look at it. It's divided into 4 colors. They say these 4 colors may represent the 4 sacred directions of north, east, south, west. They say these colors represent the 4 sacred colors of red, black, yellow, white. They represent the colors of the race of people found upon this earth. The red race, the black race, yellow race, white race. And if we look at the medicine wheel, it's divided equally. No color is bigger than the other. No color is smaller than the other. They're equal. Creator put us upon this earth to be kind to one another, to respect one another, love one another. He told the people of this earth, no one man is better than any other. He told the people, I am no better than you. You are no better than me. Brother, we're equal. He taught us these simple rules of life. These are the things that I was taught about this hoop, this story of life. From the time I'm born upon this earth till the time Mother Earth decides I need to come home. This hoop is always here. And as I travel around it, just like my eagle feather, this is going to tell us our life. And if I pass this hoop to you, I don't even know you. But if I sit and talk with you for 5 minutes, you could tell me about your family. You could tell me about your children. And I would know you. And it makes your hoop stronger. Stronger. And it's a good story. Because why would you lie about your story? This is a beautiful dance that we do here. This hoop dance. And this young man that's going to come out, he's going to tell you a story through his hoops. He's going to honor our winged brothers, our 4-legged. And as we do with all of our children and all of our young ones, we show them encouragement. Never frowning upon them, never discouraging them, always encouraging them. There's nothing wrong with giving out some good advice, some good compliments, sharing some love. I know when someone tells me they love me, I get happy. Feels good. Chante washte. Feels good, good heart. So as this young man dances and spins his hoops and makes these beautiful shapes, if you recognize it, don't be afraid to clap for him. Show him encouragement. Let him know, man, that's awesome. Reward him. And he'll reward you with an incredible, incredible hoop dance. Ladies and gentlemen, without this drum, we would not be able to perform for you, dance for you. They call this drum the heartbeat of Mother Earth. The songs they sing, the power of the drum, the spirit of the grandfather that comes alive. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce Red Thunder, Mr. Brent Spoonhunter, Oglala Lakota, Northern Arapaho, and Tiwa Pueblo. Mr. Tyson Reddow, representing Oglala Lakota. Mr. Devon Lebo, Oglala Lakota. Representing the Red Cliff Band of Ojibwe, how about a round of applause for Mr. Michael Laughing Fox Surratt. Representing the Lac de Flambeau Band of Ojibwe, how about a big round of applause for Mr. Hunter Reed. Representing Lac de Flambeau Band of Ojibwe, representing our grandmothers, how about a big round of applause for Linda Cohen. Representing the Lac de Flambeau Band of Ojibwe, how about a big round of applause for Lauren Reed. Representing Oglala Lakota and Forest County Potawatomi, how about a big, big round of applause for Mr. Brevin Boyd Sr. Representing the Lac de Flambeau Band of Ojibwe, how about a big round of applause for Mr. James Cohen. Ladies and gentlemen, representing the Lac de Flambeau Band of Ojibwe, she is a co-founder of Woodland Sky Native American Dance Company. How about a big, big round of applause for Michelle Reed. And representing the Menominee and Lac de Flambeau Band of Ojibwe, he is a co-founder of Woodland Sky Native American Dance Company. How about a big round of applause for Mr. Shane Mitchell. And ladies and gentlemen, representing the San Carlos Apache Nation, he is your storyteller, Mr. Ronnie Preston. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming to tonight's program. On behalf of the Woodland Sky Native American Dance Company, thank you. And we'll be outside for a meet and greet. We're going to be standing here to take a picture. So if you want to take a picture of our group, you can. But in a couple of minutes, we'll be out there. If you want to come take pictures, if you want to come meet us, because we would love to meet you. Thank you all.